I remember you and I talking in that period after it was very clear that he had lost. And we both had the same concerns about what we were seeing in terms of the lies being told. I ultimately resigned on December 4th, which my thought at the time was, honestly, it was even more micro than the country, and I regret to say that. I wanted my staff who was being lied to know there wasn't another 4 years, you're not gonna have jobs in a few weeks, he's leaving. And then it hit me, I was like, whoa, 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 there are 300 million Americans who need to hear the truth about this and not the lies that are being espoused. You stayed, and I know you. I know why you stayed. You're a deeply loyal person, and you felt like you had a mission and a job still to do. But tell me about that period, what you saw, and then what you saw that day on the ellipse on January 6th when you were backstage before the former president gave those dangerous remarks.
Yeah. I want to touch on one thing you just said, because I do think it's important as you read the book or even listen to this conversation. You know, I started this by saying that I deeply believed in the institution of Congress, and I have a very deep fondness for the institution. So when I took the job with Mark, I took it, and I defined this to him, that I was working for the White House Chief of Staff. I was loyal to the position. I was loyal to the executive branch and to the Constitution. And I regret saying this now with my hindsight now, but there was a point of subconscious dissonance, and then it became conscious, where I did feel loyal to both Mark and Mr. Trump. Again, it's not something I'm proud to say, but I want to be completely forthcoming and honest about all of this. So after it was clear we had lost the election, obviously, I had hoped that we would concede, but Mr. Trump had asked me to move down to Florida with him. Me, being a deeply loyal person, had agreed, and I had slowly started to see things unravel through this period. You know, at first we were filing lawsuits in states that were close, which I do think that every candidate has the constitutional right to do. There's nothing wrong with that. When it becomes wrong is when you're defying what the rule of law says, and you're pushing it further and further and further in pursuit of power. So even, you know, I knew we were entering a dark period, starting specifically on December 18th, where the president seriously started discussing martial law and the Insurrection Act. And I saw the characters that were getting brought in, and again, me being a loyal person, thought that if I stayed, you know, it was a chance that there would be some sound minds around him then and could potentially stop what was happening. You know, ultimately, January 6th happens. You might have a follow-up question here too, just because I don't want to get too far off from what you had asked, but and that whole morning not only was chaotic, but I had a real sense of what was potentially going to happen that day from the Secret Service and the Deputy Chief of Staff, knowing that a lot of the supporters that had shown up were armed. And I think the first real mental breaking point for me that day was when we were backstage in the tent, waiting for the president to go on stage to start his speech. And I hear him start to scream profanity, which unfortunately wasn't completely out of the ordinary, but about how he wanted the magnetometers taken down, because he had been made aware by the Secret Service that a lot of his supporters were armed with weapons, or what the Secret Service deemed as weapons, things from flagpoles with sharpened spears on the end to guns. He didn't think that they were here to hurt him, and they could march to the Capitol from the ellipse after the rally had ended. So in that moment, you know, I knew I had a very keen sense of how dangerous it actually was going to get that day. And I often describe that moment forward of watching a bad car accident that you want to stop from happening, or being in one that you want to stop, but it's already started. And there's nothing you can really do to stop it.